Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on Introduction to Java. BCA second semester NAP syllabus Object Oriented Programming with Java. Chapter 1 Introduction to Java. Before going to this topic, let's talk about object oriented concept. First, let's explain what is programming. Programming is process of creating a set of instructions that tells a computer how to perform a task. Basically, a programming is a set of instructions to carry out a particular task. Then, what is a programming language? The languages that are used to write a program or a set of instructions are called programming languages. In other words, programming languages is used for a communication between the user and the computer. Programming language is designed in order to communicate with a machine. So that we need a computer programming language. There are two different types of a programming. One is procedural oriented programming. One more is an object oriented programming. Here there are some of differences between OOP and POP, means object oriented programming and procedural oriented programming. Based on the definition, OOP stands for object oriented programming and POP stands for procedural oriented programming. Based on approaches, object oriented programming follows bottom up approach, which means that first declare the class, then define the functions, then define the main function. Here, every program starts the execution from the main function. Here, control flow is moved from the main function to other functions and subfunctions. So this approaches we can call it as bottom up approach. In procedural oriented programming follows top down approach. Here first define main function, then define subfunctions. So the control flow is moved from main function to other subfunctions. So this approach is called top-down approach. Based on division, a program is divided into objects and their interactions. Means a larger or the lengthier programs can be divided into the number of subunits. That is, we can call it as objects. In procedural oriented programming, a program is divided into functions and they interact. Means a larger or the lengthier programs can be divided into number of subunits. That is, we can call it as a functions. Based on inheritance support. In object-oriented programming, inheritance concept is supported. In procedural-oriented programming, inheritance not supported. Access control. Based on access control, in OOP is supported via access modifiers. What is an access modifier? Access modifiers define how the data member of a class can be accessed. Access modifiers are private, public and also protected. These are all used in only the concept of object-oriented programming. In procedural-oriented programming, no access modifiers are supported. Then, based on data hiding concept. In procedural-oriented programming, encapsulation is used to hide the data. Encapsulation means that the wrapping up of data and functions in the single unit. This we can call it as encapsulation. Wrapping means combining. In procedural oriented programming, no data hiding is present. This data is globally accessible. Then examples for object-oriented programming is C++, Java, and VB.NET, ASP.NET, etc. In procedural oriented programming, the examples are C and Pascal. Then next, let's move on to the next topic, basic concepts of object-oriented programming. First thing is that what is an object? Object means a real world entities such as pen, chair, table, anything that are all we can call it as an object. Then what is an object-oriented programming? Object-oriented programming, it is a methodology or a procedure to design a program using classes and also objects. This we can call it as object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming is a methodology to design a program using classes and objects. There are some basic concepts of object-oriented programming as follows: object, class, data abstraction, data encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, at last one, dynamic binding. The first basic concept is object. Already I told the definition. Then once again, objects are the real world entities. Any entity that has a state and behavior, this we can call it as object. For example, chair, pen, table, keyboard, bike, TV, etc. It can be physical and also logical. Hence, the instances of a class or the instances means a properties. The instances of a class is called object. The properties of a class is called object. The characteristics of a class is called object. Then second one, class. This is the second concept of the object-oriented programming. The collection of object is called class. It is a logical entity. A class is a set of objects with similar properties, common behavior, and common link to the other objects. Here the properties which are defining some of the attributes or characteristics of this class. The common behavior, it is and the operations of this class. Then one more definition. A class is a user defined data type which has the data members and also the member functions. So that a class is a blueprint that defines what type of variables and what type of methods common to all the objects of a certain kind. These are all the sum of the definitions of a class. Here is the example. If you had a class called fruit, it could have objects like apple, banana, and mango. Its properties can be shape, taste, price, etc. And one more example. If you had a class called car, it could have objects like Volvo, Audi, Toyota, etc. Its properties can be price, speed of these cars, etc. The third basic concept is data abstraction. The data abstraction is the act of representing the essential features without including any background details. Once again, I'll repeat. The act of representing essential features without including any background details. For example, you all know digital camera. A digital camera is used to capture a photograph. It simply provides a number of buttons and switches to control the operations need to take a photograph. In fact, these buttons make the working so easy that anybody that could be operated the camera, even though he or she may not be aware of the technology. For example, one more example. We all use an ATM, automated teller machine. You all know the concept of the ATM. This ATM machine use it for a cash withdrawal, money transfer, retrieving a mini statements, etc. in our day-to-day life. But we don't know internally what things are happening inside in the ATM machine when you insert an ATM card for performing any kind of operations. So these two are the examples for the data abstraction. Then we move on the data encapsulation. Data encapsulation, which means that the wrapping up of a data and functions in a single unit. This we can call it as data encapsulation. The wrapping up of a data and functions in a single unit. This we can call it as a data encapsulation. This is also called as a data hiding. Here is also an example. The car. As a driver, you know how to start the car by pressing the start button, and internal details of your starting operations are hidden from you. This is a data hiding concept. So that entire starting process is hidden from you. Otherwise, we can tell starting operation, this we can call it as encapsulated from you, hidden from you. This is an example for the data encapsulation. Next concept is inheritance. Inheritance, it is a mechanism in which one class acquires the properties of another class. So that inheritance, it's a process in which it is derived a new class from the existing class. The old class we can call it as a base class or the superclass or the parent class. And the new class is called the derived class or the subclass or the child class. Here is an example. The base class is an animal. It contains the properties is eat and also sleep. It derives the new class. The derived class name is dog. The one more property is that bark. The dog, it contains the both the features of the eat, sleep and also bark. This is an example for the inheritance. One more basic concept is polymorphism. Poly means many. Morphism means different forms. It is the ability to take more than one form. Polymorphism means it is the ability to take more than one form. In real life example of a polymorphism is a person who at the same time can have a different characteristics. Like here is an example diagrammatic representation. A man at the same time he is also a father, he is also an husband, he is also an employee. So this is one general example for a polymorphism. Then dynamic binding. The dynamic binding means the code associated with a given procedure call is not known until the time of a runtime. Dynamic binding means the code associated with a given procedure call is not known until the time of a call at runtime. Here is one general example. The best example for the dynamic binding is that method overriding. In the method overriding, both the parent class and also the derived class that have the same method means same function. Therefore, the type of this object determines which method is going to be executed first. This is a general example for a dynamic binding. Next, let's move on to the next topic, benefits of object-oriented programming. Here are the principal advantages of the object-oriented programmings are. The first benefit is reusability. In our basic concept of object-oriented programming, the one concept is inheritance. The inheritance, it is the first benefit, that is a reusability concept. Through inheritance, we can eliminate the redundant code and extend the use of the existing class. This is the first benefit of object-oriented programming. Second one is data hiding. We can also call it as data encapsulation. The principle of data hiding helps the programmer to build a secure programs that cannot be invaded by the code in other parts of the program. Means the wrapping up of this data and functions in the one single unit. This we can call it as a data hiding. Then one more is extensible. In object-oriented programming concept, this system can be easily upgraded from small to large system. So this is a concept of extensibility. We can extending the sum of the programs. This we can call it as extensibility. Next benefit is it is possible to have a multiple objects to coexist without any interference. The one class can create a number of objects. These multiple objects to coexist without any interference. The one more is it is easy to partition the work in the project based on objects. At last benefit is message passing techniques for the communication between objects. In the message passing technique, sending and receiving the messages through objects only. These are all the some of the benefits of object-oriented concept. At last, applications of object-oriented programming. Here, the areas of applications of object-oriented programming, it includes real-time systems, simulation and modeling, object-oriented databases, hypertext, hypermedia and expertext, artificial intelligence and expert system, neural networks and office automation system, CAD/CAM system. These are all the some of the areas of applications of object-oriented programming. Thank you.